welcome back again. And this time we're going to be talking about conversion. We've got a special guest with us, Mike Urban from two areas here, Pennsylvania and Boston.
What's up, man? How are you?
Thanks for being on, dude. I love it.
Of course. Yeah, not a problem.
And of course, we've got Randy Carroll from Chime, our co-host. Thanks for being on, man. I appreciate that.
Oh, I enjoy it. This is the highlight of my month. I look forward to this every time.
Well, let's get right into it, Mike. Tell us a little bit about who you are and your business, and then we'll get into the conversion part.
Sure. So I started in real estate about 5 years ago and started in Pennsylvania, Scranton, Pennsylvania. And I went from doing my first 6 months in real estate. I ended up selling close to $4 million in real estate, which in that area was quite a bit. That put me in the top 10 in the board of realtors, or I'm sorry, top 50 in the board. And then every following year, I kind of started getting used to using more technology. And I increased my sales from 4 million to 8 million to 10.4 million, and then so on and so forth. So every single year I had exponential growth in my business. Yeah. And, you know, it just kind of took off from there. And then what happened was within the last 12 months, I ended up moving and I wanted to build another business in Massachusetts. And that's actually what I'm working on now. So I live right outside the city, and I still do a ton of business in Pennsylvania, building up the business here. And it's been a long road, a lot of work. Obviously everything is, but it's been a lot of fun too. And I love what I do. So that makes it all worth it.
Nice, man. I love it. So let's get into the conversion part. Most of your business comes from where?
Most of the business is coming from Facebook, believe it or not. I've tried everything, right? Everybody has tried everything. And my bread and butter is always going back to Facebook leads, generating those leads and then bringing them into a platform and converting those leads. I ended up being very good at converting those leads. And one thing that I see a lot of, I always wondered, like, am I doing something wrong? Am I doing something right? Because I always see people complaining about, Facebook leads because they take a long time to convert. But, I guess I just got lucky, maybe. I don't know. But I always had an easy time converting them. And the cost per lead is so low. And you have such a big influence on such a small amount of money that it makes the most sense, because you could build mind share. Even if you're not developing relationships and closing deals, you're building mind share with your community, which is a huge deal. And that's kind of what I did in Pennsylvania. And then now I'm basically funneling that over into Massachusetts as well. So both areas know, like my PA clients know I'm in Massachusetts, and my Massachusetts clients know I'm in Pennsylvania, if that makes sense. And it's actually helped build my business even further. So it's pretty interesting, to be honest.
It makes sense what you're saying, because we run most of our business from online leads, and also our referrals from past clients or Sphere, or even from the online leads. So we have a process and systems in place to be able to have higher conversion. So I know that you have that in place, and that's what I want to get into, because when we started with Chime, just the Google ads, the Google PPC, people are like, oh, it's going to take a long time. You're going to have to wait a long time. It takes, because we've been doing this since 2006. And so, no, I go, I've got systems in place. And now we're already showing one that's already put in 2 offers. This has only been a week and a half in. 2 offers in, a listing, and from one of my other agents, another offering. So this is a week and a half, and we're already working with 4 different people that are serious. And it's because of our system. So that's what I want to get into with you. With Facebook lead ads, you're running them through Chime. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. So take me through that process, because I think the systems and the process is what makes your conversion much higher.
Sure. So there's a couple different levels to that. Like, I do use Chime's dynamic ads too, which we can get into in the future.
But right after, I love that.
Okay, so, but a lot of it has to do with retargeting, and I use a lot of retargeting for my audience through Facebook, and just to get people back to the website. So I think that that's really a huge portion of why I have higher conversions, is because I'm retargeting them, sending them back to my website, and they are inevitably staying on there. Keeping people, getting leads and converting leads is one thing, but like actually having people maintain keeping their eyes on your website's hard to do. It's just hard to do. It's very, they get distracted very easy. They see all these other things. But I think that overall, when I'm building out a Facebook campaign, I'm not only building out a campaign for a buyer or seller ad or something like that. I really don't run that many seller ads, but believe it or not, I run a lot of buyer ads. And then through Chime, I'm using the seller portion, which sends market reports, the monthly market reports and the bi-weekly home sales. When I get a buyer lead, I'll look up to see if they already own a home. That's the first thing that I do. I don't care about the home that they want to buy, because almost every single buyer, no matter what part of the, if it's in Pennsylvania or if it's in Scranton, or I'm sorry, if it's in Pennsylvania or if it's in Massachusetts, they almost always have a home to sell. So I'll look up the data, see if they own a home, and then I'll start targeting not only the areas they want to buy in, but I'll target back to the areas that they live in. And I use Chime with that. And I get a lot of seller leads because, in one hand, they're looking in neighborhood A, but they live in neighborhood B. So not only are they getting listings in neighborhood B that they're either living or looking to live in, but they're getting information on where they live as well. I set them up, right? You set them up for a sale. And it's just, I've never had something that's as easy as it is to do something like that. And Chime, I think, is fantastic when it comes to doing that. So,
all right. So when the lead comes through, you're looking to see whether or not they own a home.
Correct. That's the first thing I do. I don't care about the home they want to buy.
I love that.
Yeah, doesn't matter to me if they want to, of course I care about that home that they want to buy, but the likelihood of converting that person and taking them into that home is much higher than most of the people that are on there own a home. Like most people, at least in my network, even here in Boston, like a lot of people, yes, there are renters, but I don't necessarily market directly to renters. I'm marketing to homeowners already. And the way that I'm marketing to homeowners already is by showing them a home that they may want to live in, but they have to sell their home first. So I'm more concerned about where they live, not where they're going to go to, if that makes sense.
So
forget about the house. Correct.
You're getting them in as buyers, and then you're flipping the conversation to be a seller.
Correct. Yeah, and it works out in my benefit that way, and for their benefit too, because a lot of times they forget that they have a house that they have to sell. And then, you're taking them out and you're wasting time showing them homes. Lo and behold, you find out that they have a home that they have to sell. Now, don't get me wrong. I do take buyers out that do have a home to sell. Don't get me wrong. But once they start getting those emails, and Chime's emails are, I think, by far the best looking emails that I've seen. You'll have people, it's weird because when I look at my database in the morning, you'll have people that, maybe haven't been on the website in a long time. They're opening those emails, man. They are opening every single email. You know what I mean? And then you'll get that notification, bang, back to the site. That's when I call them, because they found something that they like, or they saw a home that's sold in their neighborhood. And then that's how you make the conversion. It's really just about being very, not bothering them. A lot of leads don't like getting bothered. But it's more so like, I don't know, just high quality touches instead of multiple touches to, either say, hey, get lost, or yeah, I'm ready. Now that works too. Don't get me wrong. We do that as well. But for the most part, when we have a seller, I'm telling you, they want to know what is going on in their neighborhood. That is the key.
Can we talk about that conversation real quick? When you
Sure.
are going into your Chime site and you go to the activities page and you see all these people are opening up emails and coming back to the website, how does that conversation begin when you pick up the phone?
When I pick up the phone, I usually say, hey, this is Mike Urban. Saw that you were looking at properties in neighborhood, ABC. Is there anything that I could do to help? And that's usually, they already know who I am because they're getting those emails or opening those emails or seeing my face on those emails. So even if they, I haven't even reached out to them. I usually do reach out to every lead as soon as they come in, but sometimes you're busy and you don't have time to do that. And I really don't like putting that stuff off to other people or to, I like AI and stuff like that. I've used it before, but I think, a more personal approach that convert. I would rather have 100 leads that I convert 10 of those than 1,000 that I'm converting 10, if that makes sense. So just high value, I think, providing them with high value and asking them questions in the areas they're looking in. And then I say, oh, well, I know you've been looking in here too. And then I bring up the house that they have to sell as well, obviously. And people love talking about their house. You know what I mean? forget the house they want to buy. You ask them, you start asking them about their house and why they bought there. And you know, you get personal with them, and that's what they want. They want to connect. They don't want just another agent that's looking to take them out to 1,000 houses. And then they lose contact with them because they never bought anything. Right. So, but that's good for me because I pick up those clients. Right. So, yeah, it's a huge deal. The ease of use is a big deal too. So you know, getting the lead, but then but having a very easy system to actually take that person from just a lead to closing is important too. You know what I mean? Like, it has to look good. It has to be something you want to use. And I think Chime by far is the best. That I've used almost everything too. I think Chime is by far the best looking CRM and IDX for conversion.
All right, so I want to take a step back really quick, just so we can get a little clarity as to what tools you use to do the reverse lookup. Because if I'm getting a buyer lead, right, where are you taking it to filter it through and try to get all that info?
All right, we're really digging deep now. So I use something called Forewarn. It's basically, it's like almost like you could look up. I mean, you could look up public records too. So sometimes I'll look up public record and see if the person owns a home. And if they do own a home, and I find out they own a home, then that's when I start funneling all of those houses that sold in their neighborhood back to them. So that's always something that I do when a lead comes in. Always. So I'll look up public record, because if I have their last name, I mean, it's pretty easy to look up public record. You know what I mean? And I'll check to see where they live, and then I'll funnel back and start sending them homes that sold or went pending in their neighborhood.
All right.
They're more likely to click those. They're more likely to click those too. So like if they're getting emails in an area that they live in, they're opening those emails. They're looking at those houses. They want to know who sold what in their neighborhood. Everybody wants to know that. You know what I mean?
Very true. All right. So you look them up on, it's Forewarn, right?
Yeah, So that's one thing that I use. I use Forewarn, or I'll use, like on our MLS, we could actually look up public record and by last name or county, stuff like that. Both in Pennsylvania and in Massachusetts, it's pretty easy to look up where somebody lives based on their name. You know what I mean?
Cool.
So,
all right, this is Forewarn. Am I on the right site so I can show people?
Yeah, that's that is something that I use. That's provided. Actually, it's provided through our MLS in Pennsylvania, kind of as a screening, because, like, you know, people, you know, the times that we're living in and stuff, you always want to know who you're dealing with and if there's like a criminal record and stuff. But beyond that, it gives you more information on the person as well. And if, like I said, if they have a house to sell, because you might have somebody that says, no, they don't have a home to sell, and you're taking them out on all these appointments, and lo and behold, they have a house that they have to sell.
Very true. Very true.
Like, so you're not wasting your time, you know?
Let's go into your site. I pulled up is this the Boston one?
Yeah, that's my Boston. Yeah, that's my Boston website.
Now I know why you moved away from Pennsylvania, dude.
Why, you looking at the price? Come on, man.
I was just wondering before, but now I got it.
Yeah. Dude, don't get me wrong. Listen, it's just a different dynamic. I mean, the prices are different and stuff. The commission rates are different here. It's just the area, you know what I mean? But the people too. I like working with, you know, the people here. I like working with people in PA too, but you know, it's I
love that it's connected to your messenger on Facebook, which is a beautiful part. Right. So,
dude, I actually got I think it was like an $800,000 listing from that like 2 weeks ago. No
I'm going
joke.
to message you just to fool around with it, to show people the capabilities. All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it just pops up. How can I help you? Hi.
Yeah, I got the message. I just have the message.
See what happens. I like a home.
I like a home. Real in depth there.
Really in depth, Randy. Come on.
Yes. So I.
All right, we're gonna stop sharing before that goes down.
Well played, Mike.
That was so good.
So you mentioned that you I guess learned early on, or you adopted technology early on, because you scaled very quickly, right? And you got to sell a lot of homes to get to 10 million in Scranton. Apparently, you only need to sell 4 in Boston.
Yeah,
but
it's different. Yeah, no, I was doing, like, I think the my biggest year I think I had maybe close to 70 transactions. And that was prior to even knowing about transaction coordinators and, you know, transaction management software. So I was really running myself ragged. And, you know, it was a lot of, you know, a lot of stress and stuff like that. But most of it was all Facebook and internet leads. That's pretty much it. I don't really I use Google to a point just to support my, like the reviews and stuff. Cause a lot of times people look me up on Google and get reviews that way. But for the most part, you know, the first inception of getting that lead is either through Chime or through my own Facebook ads. So.
All right, cool. So now we know you look them up, make sure they do or don't own a home. Cool.
Correct.
Now take us through the process a little bit deeper. What happens when the lead comes through and the automation gets into play? Is it a text first, email, call? What does that look like in sequence?
So in sequence, I've stopped using a direct, I've tried multiple things. Okay. I had a text immediately as soon as I sign up. But I actually have been using, I used BombBomb for a while, and I would send them a video email and a generic video email. And believe it or not, what I've been doing, and this is going to sound really funny, but I've been putting like GIF images in my initial email, and people seem to really love that. And then when they go, like sometimes when they go back to the site and it says, welcome back, like I just have this funny thing. And for some reason, people seem to really relate to that stuff. And maybe it's the clients that I have, but like they really think it, like sometimes I'll put something, like it'll be something funny, you know? And I'll tell you what, man, that really sticks in somebody's brain, you know, like it really does. So that's actually something that I've been using, and I see higher conversions with it than the text message and all that stuff. You know, I'll usually wait. I know there's like the speed to lead thing, but after I get somebody on the phone, after 24, like let's say the very next day I call them, if I get them on the phone, forget it. You know what I mean? They're going to get converted pretty much, you know, because not everybody wants to talk immediately.
And not so much on Facebook. You're right, because they're coming at an earlier stage than when you would get them on Realtor.com or Zillow. At this
right.
point,
They're at top of the funnel.
Right.
Top of the funnel. Yeah. They're at top of the funnel.
So that makes sense. All right. So you send them an email with a GIF, which I love, or text. And what's that process look like after? If you don't get a hold of them, do you leave them on the drip that is created on Chime Automation?
So, sure. So really the only drip that I ever actually really used was just sending properties that they are interested in, right? And then if it's a seller, sending them homes in their neighborhood that they're interested in. I'm not a huge fan of you know, Chime has excellent drip campaigns. Don't get me wrong. They're awesome. But I'm not a huge fan of using all those just because it's really hard to come off as very personal in my opinion, when you're sending those out. So sometimes what I'll do, you know, maybe every 7 days or so, I'll write an email that I'll blast out to everybody. And it might have something to do with what's going on or rates or something like that. But for the most part, just dripping them with properties every single day. So, you know, you could set it for like every Tuesday or Wednesday. I have them dripped every single day. Monday to Sunday, every day they're getting properties as soon as they come on, if they're in their price range, period. There's no reason to send any more information than that. They're looking at houses. They want to buy a house. Like I don't like sending multiple emails, you know, saying, hey, are you ready? Or, hey, you know, I'm out, I'm free this weekend, this, and this. They're getting all these properties. I'd rather just call them or text them. You know what I mean? And that's normally when they go back to the website or they're looking at a property. So instead of, you know, having to see my face every single day on every single property that comes up where they live or where they want to buy, and then having, you know, drips on top of drips, I really just call them when they're back on the website. You know what I mean? And that usually works pretty well for me, you know?
All right. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. So now let's say you haven't been able to get a hold of them, or you have, and you know, you need to nurture them. Can you take me through the nurture process, and then we'll get into dare ads?
Sure. So nurturing process is still sending those properties via email. That's always the case. But then that's when I build out a retargeting campaign on Facebook, and they're part of that retargeting. And I do a lot of retargeting, and I change those ads a lot. And actually all of my retargeting ads are videos. So I have a retargeting ad and it'll have a video, and I'll just be me talking about rates or how to get an offer accepted, or whatever. And the beauty about that is that you're giving them relevant information. Sometimes I will email those out through like MailChimp or something like that as well, but they're going to see your face so many times on Facebook that it just gets drilled into their brain. Like they see you in email, right? They see you on Facebook, you know, you're texting them, you're the guy, they're going to see you everywhere. So really you know, that's the beauty that's my favorite thing about Facebook is the retargeting is actually, I think that is invaluable for somebody that, you know, wants to be top of mind and building mind share, right? Like that's a huge deal, building mind share. So that's really, and then, you know, if I call them, they're gonna be like, oh, it's Mike. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I see you all the time. Well, yeah, no shit. I've been dripping you for a year on Facebook, you know, I'm retargeting it, you know, so that's, and it's cheap to do that too. Retargeting is very cheap on Facebook. It's not an expensive thing, you know, so yeah.
That's how it is. Yeah, it's about, and for those of you that are wondering how much it costs, it's about $100 for 1,000 people. That's what it typically runs around. Do either of you want to go into how dare ads work, or do you want me to take that?
You could. Why don't you take that on your screen? Because I'm not going to share my screen today.
Cool.
If you want to do it, yeah.
You want to take that verbally?
No. I'm going to let you do that. I just wanted to point out that with the retargeting content that Mike is using, he mentioned it's educational content, it's industry content. This is not, you know, this is not number one agent, call me to buy or list, right? Correct.
And that's what most people do here in Boston and in Pennsylvania. And there's only two types of video content, in my opinion. There's either educational or entertainment. So if you're not doing something funny, or you're not giving or providing somebody with something that's educational, they do not care. They're not going to watch the video.
Correct. All right. So now with retargeting, I'll show you how it works here. But with retargeting, you have options. You can do what Mike Urban is doing, which is those videos, educational, just bringing people back by giving them value. And there's always the other option, which is putting property in their IDX feed so that as they click on it, it's dynamic, it changes. So now they're going to be looking at property that matches exactly what they're looking at. And it's kind of like you doing the homework for them on the back end when you're going to the MLS, going through, finding the right property and sending it to them. Well, instead of doing that, the dare ads are doing it for you. That's the cool part about it. So let me show you one that we did. It's a simple ad that we run. It's a video ad here. We just listed a home and we put it under escrows. Quick, we pieced it together, but this is following our database. These are our past clients in our sphere. You can see this is our page. It's sponsored, right? And now it's being retargeted to them specifically. So that's one. It just cycles through easy, and we get about last week we got about 13 clicks, and we're retargeting about 3,000 people just on that one. So it gives you an idea of people coming through. And when I mean clicks, they filled out the whole process because it's also a lead ad for us. So this way we got leads from that. Hey, I'm interested in this, or what does this look like? And so the cool thing is when you start doing this more educationally, like what Mike is doing, you start creating a brand. If you go look at Mike Urban on Facebook, his brand is right on. It's like black and white, and it's clear. Right? On top of that, if he's adding value through the videos, he's going to show up at places that can be like, oh, Mike, yeah, I saw your video, which would have happened to you already, Mike. So, I mean, a year later, some guy comes up to you and goes, yeah, I've been watching you everywhere. You're following me. So I think that's part of the power of dynamic ads. Randy, anything you want to add to that?
I want to point out something that you said about how that particular ad is going to your past clients and your sphere of influence, right? Mike, how are you nurturing your past clients so that when it's time, you know, when 5 to 7 years pass and it's time for them to buy or sell again, they are buying and selling through you a second, third, whatever time?
To be honest with you, that's a two-step process. The first step is whenever I get a client, you know, in escrow, close that client, I'm very high touch and I'm very provide a high level of service that goes a long way. And I probably text or call my past clients every couple of weeks and just ask them what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, or, hey, did you see this restaurant? Or, hey, did you see this? So that's the first step. And obviously they're still part of my, they're still part of that retargeting campaign too. So they know what I'm doing, right? They know what I'm selling all the time. And then I like to put them on the bi-monthly market reports on Chime, so they know what's going on in their neighborhood. And if they unsubscribe or something like that, you know, I'll call and say, hey, you know, I know you're not interested in selling right now. We just sold you the house. Would you like to receive the reports every, you know, couple months, or how would you like it, just to know what's going on? If they say no, then that's fine. But guess what? I just made a phone call and I asked them, do you know anybody looking to buy or sell real estate? Right? You know, yeah. So, but yeah, like, but really a huge portion of it is because of the experience, right? Like, people remember that experience with an agent, especially if it was something, you know, if they had a really good experience, like, you know, it's very unlikely that they're not going to refer you to another client, if that makes sense. So that's kind of the way that I gauge it, and I stay in front of my audience is really a lot through Facebook. They're still seeing my educational videos and stuff like that. I try to like put that out to everybody. I don't segment them. I know I could do that, and you know, but you know, they know I'm here and I'm always in front of them, some way, manner, or form, if that makes sense.
Yeah, certainly. So to point out, you use some of the same tools like the market snapshots and the retargeting, just with different frequencies based off of that person's situation.
Correct, exactly. Like, I'm not going to put somebody on, if I just sold them a house, I'm not going to put them on a monthly, you know, a monthly drip for property, you know, property values, because they really don't care at that point. Right. You know what I mean? But what I will do is reach out to them every couple of months or every month or whatever, send a text message and ask how everything's going, or if I can help them. That's all it really takes. You know, you don't have to get creative with it. Just ask them, how could you help, you know, and, or if they need anything. And that goes a long way. It's not that complicated. It's just staying in touch, you know? And I mean, I'm not an angel when it comes to that either. Like, everybody gets busy, but I don't like automating a lot of that stuff either, because it's really hard to make it look super personal. But yeah, that's why like I said, I'm a huge fan of retargeting.
And are you using any mass communication tools like mass texting for some of this?
I don't use any mass texting. I kind of just have, like, if there's a day that I'm going to set up to do something, that's what I'm going to do. So if I say next Friday, I'm going to reach out to all my past clients, that's what I'll do. So if it's a second Friday of every month, then that's what I'll do that day. And I'll just try to focus on that, doing that, and seeing if I can drum up business from just specifically that. And then, like I said, when you're making it very personable, it's, I know that if I had mass texting, it'd probably make it easier for me, right? But, you know, maybe there's some people that I just, you know, I didn't have the last text that I had with them wasn't very positive or something like that, which doesn't happen that often. But, you know, I just rather have it narrowed down per person. You know what I'm trying to say? Because that value in 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people, I'd rather send 10 text messages to 10 people and make it personal to that person than to send 100 that's the same message to everybody. Does that make sense? Because I'm very good at taking one person and converting that into multiple, much, like, that's how I get my business, through the people that I've already done business, a lot of it, that I've already done business with, and adding more value to that person or being personable. That's how I do it, you know?
So what are those scripts for asking for referrals? Because I think that's something that a lot of people forget to do.
Usually, honestly, one thing that I do a lot of is, like, just today, here's a good example. A house came off the market in a development that I've sold 3 homes in, okay? It's a brand new construction house. He was a builder, and I called the builder the other day. It expired on the market. I called the builder and I told him, look, I've sold a ton of properties in that development. I said, I'm not asking to list your place. I said, but let me reach out to people that I know that are in that development. Most people that are in a development want to control who's moving to the development. That's a fact, okay? So I reached out to 3 of those people in development. Lo and behold, the one person works at a hospital. She has a fellow doctor that is looking to move into the area. Guess what? I'm setting up an appointment to see that property off market and potentially sell it to that buyer and list the property at the same time. You know, it's a $400,000. That's in Pennsylvania. And what I'll do is I'll send out one of my agents. They'll take them through, and it'll be a done deal. So it's not always about asking. Like, that's just one example. So that's like, hey, you know, how you been? I just want to let you know that I've been, talking to a builder in your development, do you know anybody that might be interested in purchasing in that development? People want to, like, when you ask somebody a question and it's not about getting business, like, even though I'm kind of asking, I'm looking to help this builder, and that's the way that I put it on, right? And I really am looking to help him. So I say, like, you know, I'm trying to help this guy out. It was on the market for a year. Is there anybody that you know that might be interested in buying in your development? And that's really how you get people engaged. So, you know, if you have a buyer that bought anywhere and you find something in that development that is, you find something that expires in that development, you get in touch with that person and you let them know that you've sold in that development. You reach out to the people that you've sold to and say, hey, I have this coming up. I want to help this person. People want to help other people, right? So when you involve one of your past clients to help you, to help somebody else, it makes them feel good. And you're really, that's how you're making sales, but you're really helping people out. So that's how I connect with my past clients. That's one of the #1 ways, actually. So.
Makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. There's a question from Wendy Carter. Mike, are you using the texting through Chime or on your phone?
That's a good question. I actually, so I have, let me think how to say this. So I use my phone for the most part for the texting. I know I've sent some mass texts out through Chime. Sometimes I will still send mass texts out, but it's very, very infrequently. I started that in the beginning and I still like sending personal text messages. So I'll flip that over to my own personal cell phone, if that makes sense. And I let them know that, hey, this is my personal cell phone. You know, like, is there anything that I could do to help you? So that's normally what I do. I know it's a little more cumbersome that way, but believe me when I tell you, you don't need to send thousands of messages to convert business. You just don't. You need to connect with 1 to 2 people a day. That's all it takes, you know? So forget about sending 1,000 text messages out to 1,000 different people that are impersonal messages, you know? Connect with 1 or 2 people and that's it, period.
Can you take us through the conversation, how it sounds, the dialogue? So if I just came through on Facebook, I'm a new lead, what's the conversation that you have with it? How does it sound? How does it look?
So like, under normal circumstances, if you're a lead that just came in today and you're looking at, you know, you're looking at a property, if I get you on the phone, I'll say, hey, it's Mike Urban. I saw you're looking at, you know, I'm very informal when I first call too. I'll say, hey man, what's up? You know, it's Mike Urban. I saw you're looking at a property on 123 Main Street. Is there anything I can do to help you? And I ask questions, right? Like I usually ask questions to that person and they say, yeah, I'm just looking or whatever. And I'll say, well, you know, I don't get them off the phone immediately. I'll say, well, what's your timeline look like? I kind of have scripts built out for questions that I ask. You know, what is your timeline? Do you have a house to sell? And that's pretty much it. You know, you have those 2 questions and then they start telling you their life story. You know what I mean? But I actually really try to refocus. If they tell me they have a house that they're living in that they have to sell first, I totally change the conversation around and make it about selling their house, period. I forget the house that they're buying because they're not gonna buy that house until they know what to do with their house. So I usually ask, why did you buy your house when you bought it? Or where you live now, why did you decide to buy that house? And then that really starts to dig deep. And then they start telling you, you know, about they had 3 kids in the house and this and this and this. And then you have that connection, you know?
Very true.
Sorry, my dog is barking in the background. I apologize.
No, I didn't even hear it. You're good.
Oh, okay.
You're good. Now that were a couple of questions there. So Randy or Mike, anything you want to add in regards to conversion as we wrap up here? Just want to make sure that we didn't miss anything.
I just want people to know that, like, you know, a lot of people are boasting that they get 100 leads or 200 leads or 300 leads. Like, you don't need that many leads in order to sell a lot of real estate. And to be honest with you, it could be information overload on you to try to follow up with all of these people, right? You don't need that much. You literally only need a handful of people that really trust you or that you're building trust with in order to get very high quality business. If you take one of those 100 leads and you convert that lead and they have the best experience they've ever had, you know, with an agent, they're going to refer you to so many people that that's where you're going to build your business. So don't try to convert or don't try to just build on the leads that, you know, don't try to build your database every day, but don't just focus on building that database. Focus on converting what's already in there. That's the first thing. The second thing, go look at your database right now. Take 10 people that registered in the last 3 months and reach out to them tomorrow and just say something personable or personal of the areas that they're looking at. call an agent that sold a property in one of those developments that they may be looking and say, hey, you know, I talked to an agent, there might be a house coming up in that development that I know about. That's what people want to hear. They don't want to, you know, they don't want cookie cutter text messages about, hey, when are you looking to buy or sell? They want it personal, and they want stuff that they don't know about or stuff that's coming on the market. As soon as you tell somebody something like that, you have their attention immediately because it's competitive and you're putting the work in. And so just focus on that. Focus on a small amount of people. Don't try to focus on thousands of people.
Really good point. Randy, anything you want to add there, man?
Quite frankly, I'm a little bit interested in just hearing about the journey of getting the buyer lead turned listing, turned what do you do with that listing to convert more leads?
Yeah, dude, that's a good question.
How you get a listing. I mean, here's the deal. When you have a buyer, right, that you're on the phone with, right, and if they do have a house to sell, if they're looking in a neighborhood, so one of the strategies that I use, if they're looking in a specific neighborhood and I have that connection with that person, I will start calling in that neighborhood, whether it's an expired listing or just a house that sold over the last 7 to 10 years, and say, hey, you know, I have a buyer that I've been working with. You don't happen to know anybody looking to buy or sell in that neighborhood. So every single time when I get a buyer on the phone, I say this exactly. Where do you want to live? Tell me where you want to live. Is there a specific location, development? I'll find you what you want in that area. And if that's what they want, that's what I'll focus on for the next 3 days. I'll see the expired houses. I'll look at listings, people that have been living in that neighborhood for a long time, and I'll call them. And that'll put me in front of them. And I have the buyer. So, but not only do I have that buyer, he also has a house that I have to sell. But if I could get him to see a preview of that house, guess who's going to list that house when it comes time to list? Or when it comes time to list? I'm going to list the house. So that's pretty much it. And then just building out the business that way. And like I said, that takes one person. You know what I mean? That one person, that one qualified lead you spoke to on the phone that day, that could turn into 3 listings in that development that they want to buy. Digging deep and finding out why they want to buy and why they want to be in a certain area. They may have in-laws there. So now you might call the in-laws, right? They may have, you know, brother or sister there. Maybe you're going to call their brother or sister. Hey, do you know somebody that might be looking? I just got off the phone with your brother, you know? And that's the way you like start multiplying that business, if that makes sense. So like, don't get super hyper focused on getting 1,000 leads and hoping that one of them is going to pick up the phone. Focus on who is picking up the phone and figuring out how to convert that person to get more business, if that makes sense.
That's very true.
Yeah. So when you say you are going and checking out expired listings, or you're going and checking out people who have lived in homes for 7 to 10 years or longer, you know, these are clearly homes that you can't find on Zillow or Realtor.com, right? So is that part of something that you kind of script into your conversation or your value prop? Because
yeah, so I mean, normally when I talk to, like, when I pitch like my website to somebody, I think this is what you're trying to ask. If I pitch my website to somebody, usually I'll tell them, look, it updates really fast. There's a lot of times there's listings that'll come on there before they hit Zillow or Realtor.com. And, but a lot of people, most people, especially the market that we're in, this is the perfect market for me because there's low inventory. So when there's low inventory and you have buyers that know there's low inventory, guess what? That's the perfect storm for creating more business for yourself if you're okay with calling people. You know what I'm trying to say? So that when, as soon as you tell that buyer that, hey, I could find you that house in that development, or, you know, tell me where you want to live, then that's all you really need. You could spend the next 7 days of your week calling people in that development. You know what I mean? Or 3 days or whatever it might be, instead of trying to get 100 more leads and trying to find, you know, a needle in a haystack that wants to buy immediately. Who cares? You know what I mean? I don't care if they're looking to buy 3 months or 3 years from now. It doesn't matter to me because I'll turn that buyer that has a house to sell into another listing in another development just by talking to one person on the phone. That's all it really takes, you know, instead of focusing on 1,000 leads. Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome.
There's a question here from Lori says, nice job, Mike. What if I haven't sold in the development? What happens then?
Who cares? I mean, just you have a buyer for that development. It shouldn't matter. If you have that is the leverage that you have, okay? If you have a buyer for a specific area, you have leverage over every single person in that development. You have a buyer, wants to buy somewhere. If you call somebody and say, hey, you know, I have somebody looking in this development, That's all it takes. And the pressure is completely off of you, right? Because you start asking them questions about if anybody that they know is in development. Everybody wants to control who moves into their development. I mean, it's just a fact. So once you start talking about a potential buyer in there, they start, asking their friends if there's anybody that they know that's looking to sell. And that's how those connections happen, But you have to be personable on the phone. You know what I mean? You can't be scared on the phone. You have to be honest, right? And provide that value to that person. And that's it. That's really all it takes.
I love it. Randy, anything I missed that you wanted to talk about? I think we got into the meat and potatoes of this.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
I can't stress the Chime seller leads enough, or the buyer to seller. I can't stress that enough. That's a huge deal. It's really a huge deal. People come back months later after looking at properties selling in their inbox, and all of a sudden they're on the website. Guess what? They're ready to go. They're ready to sell.
That's the biggest takeaway for me is that reverse lookup from a buyer lead and figuring out their own home ownership situation.
Correct.
Because seller leads are genuinely typically very expensive and not very good.
No, they're never good. But buyer leads that turn into seller leads are cheap, right? That's it. And one seller lead is good. It's a seller is good because you get to put a sign in the yard. You might get a buyer from it. But if you have a buyer, you could get multiple sellers. You know what I mean? Including them as a seller. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the way, and it's much cheaper that way too.
Yeah, very clever.
Very true, guys. Well, Mike, thank you for your time, man. I love your branding. I love your website. I love the fact that you're with Chime, because so am I. It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, man, it was fun.
Randy, thanks for putting this together, man, and we'll see you again in a couple of weeks so we can get going. I put some links up there, and I also shared your website so people can take a look at it. Mike, anything?
Sure.
You want to let people know where to find you? If you have referrals, what areas do you cover?
I cover Northeast PA, which is Scranton area around there, Lackawanna County, and pretty much in Boston, west of the city, north of the city. I live north of the city myself, so anywhere in or around Boston. I mean, I don't limit myself to just one specific area. I'm everywhere, so whatever you need, I can help. I'm everywhere.
I love it, guys. Thanks so much. And remember,
yeah, man,
look up Chime. Randy, what's the website for Chime? It's chime.me, but we have an affiliate. But
yeah, there's a special link. You can find it in the chat right now. Chime.me/affiliates/LCA 0064. 64. My call number.
Dude, I got a whole bunch of numbers, but chime.me is the easiest one.
That's it.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Mike. Thanks.
All right, guys. Yeah, man. Bye, guys.
I'll take it easy.